This is cutting down the nets. It's Elite Eight time. Only a few games left to bet on for college basketball. And for someone that's personally bet on nearly 1,000 games this year, it's quite sad. This is how we're doing for the year. 55.5%. The NCAA tournament has gone well. 58.7%. And overall, March, including the conference tournaments, is north of 56%. So I'll go through the Elite Eight. There's a couple TBC games you've probably seen on BetStamp if you've been following the show. And then the NIT Final Four is set as well. But the meat, the steak at the steakhouse is the Elite Eight. So let's spend most of our time on the Elite Eight games. Arkansas and Duke is first. From a numbers perspective, I have Duke by 2.4. Shot quality is at 4.5. Torvik 4.3. KenPom 4, and the line's 4. Duke offense, very good. I can't believe they beat Texas Tech. They zoned Texas Tech. Boy. So here's what's tilting about Texas Tech for me. Brackets, which is far less important than the bets I make. But when you have UConn beating Gonzaga, where you're right, just with the wrong team, you earn nothing. And then when you have Texas Tech coming out of that bracket, you just did everything right, but lost all your leverage, and it's frustrating. So if you had Gonzaga going to the title game, I mean, my Texas Tech to the title game does nothing. It provides zero leverage over you, and it's just tilting. That one hurt. That one hurt. But Duke shot 71% in the second half versus the number one defense. And Jeremy Roach made a lot of runners and ones. And look, they earned it. Not going to complain about it. And Texas Tech had a flawed offense. They played well, just didn't get it done. Okay, so let's switch to this actual matchup, Arkansas and Duke. So the Duke offense, very good. Arkansas defense, very good. I think those two entities perform as expected. So I think the story here is the flaws. The flaws are on the Arkansas offensive side, and the flaws are on the Duke defensive side. Arkansas, 30% on the year from three-point, and they've been under a raw, not adjusted, a raw 1 point per possession in 4 out of 6 games. That's extremely rare for an Elite Eight team. Duke has been above 103 adjusted defense in 6 of 7. That is extremely rare to be in the Elite Eight. But whatever, you gotta play Michigan State, and then you shot the lights out against Texas Tech. I'm not tilting, you're tilting. So what do we do here? I'm on the Arkansas side. What I'm hoping is that this North Carolina Coach K narrative, where the seas have parted for these teams to meet in the Final Four, pushes that number to 4.5, just to get me a little bit of extra value. Side note, Arkansas transition defense, elite. Talking Elite Eight. Hogs transition D is elite. And while Texas Tech didn't have the true answer for Mark Williams inside, I know they got beat by Paulo. I know they got beat by Roach, but Williams got his, and he really impacted the game. And Jalen Williams is a great post defender, and I like that matchup for Arkansas as well. So I'm on the Arkansas side. Haven't bet it yet. Hoping for 4.5. But when you look at these margins, you've been following me for the year. You know I prefer 4s, 5s. In terms of value, difference between the point spread and Paddy. We're dealing with 1s and 2s here. So, imagine sitting it out unless it's like a true toss-up. But, yeah, it's just these games are tighter, and that's what happens. Houston, Villanova. Snail game. 60 possessions, maybe up to 63. So I think the story here is twofold. Let's make the bull case for Houston. The bull case for Houston is that Nova has not really seen any pressure defenses this year. St. John's, that's really the only one in conference. Baylor, Tennessee, and Howard. So How did Nova do? Well, they beat St. John's 3 times, but they struggled against St. John's. And Houston does other things other than just, ball pressure better than St. John's. They lost to Baylor convincingly. Houston profiles a little bit more like a Baylor team, not quite. And then they beat Tennessee in Howard. Another factor, Phi Slamma rebound. Houston grabbed so many offensive rebounds. And Nova's pretty good at preventing that, but there's been a few cases this year where they have not been able to limit the offensive rebounds. And KenPom has their offensive rebound defense correlated pretty strongly, like a 0.6, with their adjusted defense. So their adjusted defense could slip here if they can't keep Houston off the glass, and no one can keep Houston off the glass. So that's the bull case for Houston. The bull case for Nova is that Houston just allows an absurd rate of 3-point shots. Nova shoots an absurd rate of 3-point shots. Houston has defended the 3-point well, but Nova's elite. So you can kind of see where the game lies. I still favor Houston, but this is tight, and I certainly see paths. Look, like I can't complain if I bet Houston and Villanova wins, and then say, well, Villanova went 12 out of 22 from 3-point range. That's that was the difference in the game. Yeah, that was the difference, but that's also in the handicap here. That's very possible. So it's a tricky one. Some good basketball. Both games on Saturday, I think, have intriguing matchups and are just good quality basketball. The Arkansas-Duke flaw portions of their game, going against the other side's strengths, is interesting. And then the whole Houston bully ball pressure, rebounding versus the Nova pure shooting from the outside at all positions is interesting. Okay, Miami, Kansas. I don't see any reason to handicap a Kansas game the rest of the year if Remy Martin's playing, since he's clearly compromised. And if you have a Kansas-Providence ticket, I would not throw it away. I would hold it until the investigation is complete. In the final minute and a half, Remy missed 5 free throws, fouled a 3-point shooter, and they won by 5 on a 6.5, 7.5 point line. So, look, I'm not tinfoil hat guy, but Jesus, that was frustrating. Okay, moving on to this game. Miami has not made a shot in the tourney. They really haven't. So they're in the Elite Eight without, making a shot. And the hallmark of their run earlier in the year, where, Paddy started to bet them a lot and stuff like that, was they shoot a high volume of threes and they couldn't miss. Their adjusted offense was really high. So for them to get this far without making many shots is pretty impressive. And they kind of got there against Iowa State, but not really. I mean, 33% or something like that. So do they have it in them? I think they do. I don't know if this is a spot or anything like that. From a data perspective, I have this very close. 6.1, the line's 6. KenPom's at 7, Torvik's at 8, shot quality's at 6.3. It's real close. My heart wants to bet Miami. I don't know if I'll get action in this game. I might join it live. I don't know. Kansas has had many chances to pull away from opponents and just haven't. There's no reason they shouldn't have went into the half against Providence up 22, 26 points, something like that. And we all paid the price if you were back in Kansas. Another thing, Kansas hasn't played many teams who take care of the ball this year. So the Big 12 is aggressive, and aggression leads to lots of turnovers. And, if you look at their schedule, Kansas doesn't force a lot of turnovers, but it's just rare for them to play someone that isn't sloppy with the ball. So that's kind of my take on that. But, we're literally on the number here, and I'll just have to decide which way I go. Peacock time. If you've been following the show, here, let's just look real quick. So they played on Thursday. Where are you at? Oh, I can't find it. All right. So, what was it? 6? I had the St. Peter's come within 6 of Kentucky. Okay. And then we had basically a pick 'em in their next game. And against Purdue, I had it like 2.8. So this is the tightest spread we've seen for St. Peter's since Murray State. But this is also the largest spread that Paddy has set for them since Kentucky. So the reason that I'm still on the St. Peter's side is because even though the market has caught up, we were sitting on 3 games in a row where I was 11 points off market. And now that gap has shrunk, and now it's like 2.5 points. But I still see value on the St. Peter's side. So here's the bull case for St. Peter's. They have 3 glaring 4-factor weaknesses. Effective field goal offense. They do have some shooters, but just overall their offense it's not a good shooting team. There are individual players that can shoot, and they certainly made enough shots down the stretch against Purdue. Just absolute stones. They are sloppy at the ball, offensive turnovers, and they foul a lot. You could argue that you could call more fouls on them. I mean, it's such an aggressive defense that you could probably call a foul on every possession, but they get whistled for lots of fouls, but they're used to it. They play deep. They rotate guys in and out. This is not a put 5 guys on the floor, hope none foul out, play them 38 minutes, and, my team's on the floor. These guys are running deep rotations. So basically, they don't shoot the ball that well. They're sloppy, and they play great defense, but a little too aggressive at times. North Carolina does not exploit either of these edges that much. So their effective field goal defense, not that strong. Their forcing of turnovers, not a focal point of the defense. And drawing fouls, not a focal point of the offense. So from a matchup perspective, I would grade this a plus matchup just because you can't exploit the St. Peter's weaknesses. Are there massive St. Peter's edges in the matchup? No, but I'm just saying that there's nothing there that scares me away from the data is kind of how I would label that. So as a bonus, I'll just cover the TBC games, the Basketball Classic, Portland and Southern Utah. I played a 4.5 yesterday, so if you follow me on BetStamp and there's no video to back it up and you're just like, I don't know, guy's been doing pretty well, I guess I'll join in on some Portland. SUU, Southern Utah, has beat some quality opponents thus far. Portland has been very, very good in non-Santa Clara games for the last month. So matchup was pretty neutral across the board. There's no glaring edges on either side, so it's just a data play for me. So the 4.5 is gone. It's down to like 3. But if that line got released at 3 today, and I didn't know anything about where it had been or anything like that, I'm showing Portland by 2. I would still take the 3. So that's just kind of my take on that. Coastal Carolina, South Alabama. These are actually from the same conference. So 2 Sun Belt teams, but they only played 1 time this year. South Alabama did win that game. The edges from a matchup perspective. Turnover edge for South Alabama, but they only forced 8 in that first meeting. And then a major offensive rebound edge for Coastal, and they did grab 14 of 34 misses in that game. So just something to note. I have it close to a pick 'em. Shot quality is close to a pick 'em, and we're getting a full possession there. So that one seems like just a classic Paddy play for me. NIT Final Four, Wazoo, Texas A&M. I played Texas A&M -1. Wazoo ball security should be good, which neutralizes Texas A&M pressure, and they probably end up forcing more turnovers than Texas A&M. Both teams strong offensive rebounders, so I'm seeing a little bit of over talk there. When you have 2 strong offensive rebounding teams, I don't know. Look, not gonna play something major on it, but maybe some live bets. You're gonna be pretty lonely when these NIT games tip off. The The NCAA tournament's going to be in kind of that lull, and you're going to want some action. So Torvik noted that Wazoo's had a lot of injuries this year, and at full strength, they're a full 111 offense and 92 defense. But Paddy's using a 111-94. Like, that's kind of what the algorithm spits out. So it's pretty similar. So I'm fine with what I have there. But two teams that have played very well. Bonnie and Xavier. From a matchup perspective, neutral. The Bonnie defense is back, and the Bonnie Paddy number is actually really affected by some offensive outliers that if those didn't exist, this could be a 4.5 for Paddy. But they had two offensive stinkers late in the regular season, and that's really dragging it down a bit. Still showing it as a play over Xavier. If you want narrative street, we got the interim coach. We got Travis Steele getting fired. We got Scruggs ACL. Now, can the team rally around all those components? Yes, absolutely. But a lot of their games have taken place with that information very fresh. So now they've had time to process that. On the Bonnie side, you have a coach refusing jobs elsewhere. You have 5 seniors. It just feels like destiny. I don't know. But that's narrative. I don't bet like narrative. But the data does support a Bonnie play. So should be a fun weekend into early next week of basketball. I played Houston -2. Would I play the 2.5? I don't know. I don't know. I felt good about the 2. The 2.5 is probably fine. We're talking about a half point. But again, those edges I've talked about are they're slim, man. Like, there's not much there. So money line far safer. Perhaps a Kansas-Houston money line parlay or something like that. I don't know. You get to make your own decisions. And maybe when the notification popped up on BetStamp, you grabbed it with me. It was a couple days ago. Arkansas +4. I'm waiting on the 4.5. Here's why I think it could come. Since the seas have parted for the Coach K North Carolina Bowl, could we get enough attention on Duke where people are just assuming that Duke is winning this game and assuming that North Carolina is winning their game, and then the numbers just kind of reflect that. So I am hoping for 4.5 there. Will it make a difference? I don't know. I mean, it's not going to win any other bets. It would just turn a potential push into a win. And I think mentally you just have to understand what that means. Like, if you get the 4.5 instead of the 4, you aren't going to win anything else. You just might lose less if it landed on the number. St. Peter's +8. Went through that matchup. I'm comfortable with it. I wish we got a 10. I wish we got 11. It is concerning that the line is 5 points different than Purdue. I don't think Purdue would have been favored by 5 over North Carolina. Baylor was. But again, my variance on St. Peter's games was 11, 10, 9 points. Now, I just have less value now than I have, but still enough value for me to play. TBC, talk through those games, and how I'm handling the NIT is I took Bonnie money line instead of the point spread. But again, if you follow me on BetStamp, you saw all this stuff already. So kind of a longer video, but hey, we only got 2 or 3 left. So have a good Elite 8. It's been a fun year. And thanks for stopping by, Cutting Down the Nets.